We all are being told that British colonials ruled us for almost 200 years. Our textbook tells the same thing. Our, history write-ups tell the same thing. The documents talk about it, and we have been learnt about this particular, fact that British ruled us for 200 years. But when we go a little bit deeper and do a fact finding, we come to know that British has not actually ruled for 200 years. The tenure of British rule is very short. In fact, British has not even ruled us for 100 years as such. So how can we tell that British has not ruled us for 100 years? So let us go back to the history and try to talk about it and try to decipher this particular context, and then I will come back to this scenario where I will discuss why it was misplaced and why purposefully it was done, also the numerical error as such. British rules are being considered from the time when Robert Clive won the fight in Bengal in the year of 1757. However, if you understand the ancient and the pre-modern history of India, you will understand that Bengal was never a power center at that particular period of a time. In fact, Bengal was not doing politically well as a power center when British won the fight in Palashi. In fact, British has not won that war. It was actually a war with the company. The company means East India Company, and they are not Britain. They are traders. They came in India absolutely for trading and nothing else. And then they came down to politics because they understood that if you don't fight and win, it is difficult to capture the trade ways and resources and products. So it is not about the British Empire who owned that particular war. It was a company who owned that war. So it was a private war as such. So after that also, we cannot even tell that East India Company ruled us for so long, because the powerful political scenarios were in different zones. For example, one of these very strong zones was in the south, Mysore, Karnataka. The other zone was in north, Punjab province. And then we had Marathas. So Sikh, Marathas, and the king and the kingdom of Mysore, and then Nizams. It took almost 100 years to win those battles. So just for your information, the Mysore state was won in the year of 1799. Then the Marathas were finally defeated in the year of 1818, and the Sikh empire was finally taken over by the company in the year of 1849. If you see all those battles, after that also there are a lot of battles to capture different states and provinces as such. But otherwise, those four battles finally concluded the British company's achievement in India. And we can tell that actually the British people, not British Empire, ruled India from 1849 to 1947, which is lesser than 100 of years, if we calculate it in that way, because we cannot just say that Bengal they have owned, so they have actually ruled in India for that long. No, they have not, because Bengal was not a power center at that time. So in that case also, in fact, the Empire of Britain took over only after the revolt. The revolt happened in 1857. Only after that, the British Empire took over India, and from 1857 to 1947. So if we calculate that, we understand how many years British Empire ruled India. But now let me come down to this particular point. What happened in this particular period? So from the 1st of century to 17th of century, when we say 17th of 1st of AD we are talking about, to 17th century, the GDP of India was in fact almost 25% to 35% of the global GDP. And when British left us, so the whole British Empire left us and then said that we are independent in midnight, our GDP was actually 2%. So imagine lesser than 100 years a ruler ruled India, and the GDP goes down from 25 to 30% to just 2%. So how much extraction happened in that smaller period of a time as such? Whereas other empires who were in India, for example, we had Cholas for 400 years, we had Mughals for 200 years, and the GDP in fact increased, it never fall off, right? So British and the Britain cannot claim that they have given us improved and better India just because they gave an independence and they gave us a rail. The rail actually was given to us because they used rail as a way to take, extract profit, used rail to bring in armies and all those other aspects of using rail. However, now let us come back to a point where we are talking about the situation of why a number was misplaced, why we say that British ruled us for 200 years. So if you see British, the strategy of colonial British works on one particular element of shame and breaking confidence. The colonial rulers, especially Britain, ruled on these two. So they first used to break the confidence level of the colonies, and then impact them with a factor of a shame that they are much lesser as a species than the colonials as such. And it happened in Africa. We know what happened in Africa, and the same thing happened in India. And after the independence, whatever history is being written, most of these historians were I will say were influenced by the colonials as such. So when they wrote a history, they wrote a glamorized history of colonials, otherwise sounding like somebody ruled us for 89 years and extracted so much of money of us. It's not a very powerful wording as such. So if you just expand it to 200 years, it sounds like actually an empire ruled for 200 years. In fact, the Mughals ruled us for a longer period of a time, and Cholas ruled us much longer period of a time, 400 years as such. So if you see that it's made up, it's purposefully done, and it's driven by a factor of colonial shame to implement on us, so that we can think that British Empire indeed was a bigger, powerful empire to rule us for 200 years. In fact, it was much lesser. So read more about it. Data and information are available across. Read actual information, be factually correct, and then understand what British did to us as a good process of understanding the post-colonial India. Thank you. Namaskar. My name is Kaustav Sengupta. I am an academician.